Hello everyone, I am Rohan Mode, Cloud Security Engineer, and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be discussing about Amazon Inspector. Did you know your cloud environments could have vulnerabilities you are not even aware of? So Amazon Inspector is something that allows you to detect and scan any of the vulnerabilities in various resources, compute resources for AWS. So let's dive deep into Amazon Inspector. This will be your secret weapon for spotting and fixing vulnerabilities in your cloud environment. So stick around and I will break down it into super simple terms with examples and make it click. So let's get started. What you will learn today. At first, we'll see the background of Amazon Inspector. What is Amazon Inspector and why do we need it? Later, we'll see how Inspector actually works. Following that, I will explain you how you can continuously complete an vulnerability assessment for any golden AMIs that you have in your infrastructure. Later, we'll talk about the administrative features and what are those. At the end, I will show you a short demo on how detection and scanning of container vulnerabilities can be performed using Inspector. So let's get started. So now let's talk about Amazon Inspector. With the emerging use of microservice architectures to deliver better fault isolation and resilient applications, use of containers is increasing along with the risks tied to it. So applications that are present either in the staging or production environments may have certain vulnerabilities that can be exploited by attackers and used to cause greater damage. So let's take a basic example to understand this. Say we are using a misconfigured caching server that is deployed in our staging environment. One of our engineers mistakenly left the port open so that anyone outside the VPC can access it. Such misconfigurations increase the temptation for the attackers to exploit the systems. We may find later that the caching server has gone rogue and started attacking other services internally. With this, the best supposition to consider is that the server is no longer trusted and other systems in the same network might have been compromised. So to avoid such situations, we must always test and audit our systems to ensure overall security posture. This is where Amazon Inspector comes into picture, providing a complete vulnerability scanning, producing a detailed list of security findings prioritized by levels of security. So Amazon Inspector basically scans any of the compute resources which are mentioned here. First, Elastic Compute Cloud, that is EC2. Second, all the images in Elastic Container Registry. And third, AWS Lambda functions. Now, let's see how Inspector works. So as you already know that Amazon Inspector is an automated security vulnerability management service. It scans for AWS resources for any vulnerabilities like outdated software or misconfigured settings. It also checks for network issues or network exposure risks. And the purpose is basically to help ensure your cloud resources are secure by continuously evaluating and highlighting the risks. So it is very easy to enable Amazon Inspector. With just few clicks, you can enable it in your AWS account. It integrates well with AWS organizations to allow central management across multiple accounts. And the sheer benefits are centralized setup and management, which automatically saves time and reduce any kind of complexity. So in order to discover in next phase, discover and scan, it automatically discovers any of the AWS workloads and continuously scan them for any vulnerabilities. So it also uses a maintained vulnerability database, and it always provides near real-time results, like findings are generated almost instantly, helping you to respond quickly. The next step is nothing but contextualized findings. So Amazon Inspector, based on the risks that it has identified, it assigns a risk score to each finding, and which are basically consisting of multiple factors like severity and potential impact. This helps you basically prioritize issues that are most critical to fix, and which provides you simplified insights. For example, provides you a meaningful summary of risks, making it easier to understand and act on findings. And at last, nothing but how it integrates with other AWS services. So you can see it, Amazon Inspector integrates well with AWS Security Hub, which is basically centralized security dashboard for monitoring and managing findings across multiple AWS services, which collects all the logs in the Security Hub. Multiple resources generate logs, and all these logs are pulled into AWS Security Hub, and you get a centralized dashboard in order to manage it. Next, Amazon Event Bridge automates responses by triggering actions, example, sending alerts or creating tickets whenever vulnerabilities are detected based on, we can say, event triggers. And the next one is nothing but Amazon ECR, that is Elastic Container Registry, which basically stands for any of the container images for vulnerabilities as they are pushed to the registry. And in this demo, we'll see how the scanning engine for inspector works for any of the Elastic Container Registry and the images pushed to it. And it also has APN partners, which works with third-party tools for remediation and compliance. It's basically makes it simplified for you to take any course of action based on the automated workflows, like creating tickets in your task management, apply fixes to vulnerabilities, example, updating software, reconfiguring settings, and the entire goal for us is to minimize risk and maintain a secure AWS environment. Now, moving forward, let's see how you can continuously assess for vulnerability in any of the golden AMIs that you have. So this diagram basically showcases the workflow of using Amazon Inspector in conjunction with various AWS services like CloudWatch, Systems Manager, Parameter Store, Amazon SNS, as well as Lambda functions to perform continuous assessments and analyze findings. So I will explain everything step by step on how each thing happens in terms of continuously assessing for vulnerabilities in your golden AMIs. So at first, a CloudWatch events rule is scheduled to trigger at specific intervals. This basically ensures that the vulnerability assessments run automatically at regular times that you specify in the events. So the purpose is to automate the start of the security scanning process without manual intervention. Second, the CloudWatch event triggers the start continuous assessment Lambda function, which performs various actions. So out of which is 2A. The first one is the Lambda function fetches configurations such as assessment templates, target resource ARNs, or any other scanning parameters from systems manager parameter store. In 2B, this function identifies the Amazon EC2 instances that are within the scope of assessment based on the configuration. And in 2C, it triggers Amazon Inspector to begin the vulnerability and security assessment for identified resources. Later, in step 3, Amazon Inspector performs security scans on the identified EC2 instances and any other resources. It basically evaluates the system for vulnerabilities, configuration issues, and potential exposures. And the result of the scans are stored and flagged as findings. Later, Amazon SNS in fourth step, and this is nothing but simple notification service. So all these findings are sent from Amazon Inspector to SNS, which notifies the stakeholders about the results. So ensures that administrators or security teams are promptly alerted about any vulnerabilities or misconfigurations that have been identified. So later in step 5, you will see the findings from Amazon Inspector are basically processed by the analyze inspector findings Lambda function, which performs 3 key actions. In 5A, the function pulls findings data from the SNS topic. So once that happens, in 5B, it maps the findings to the specific EC2 instances or resources that were scanned. And in 5C, it analyzes the findings and takes action, such as sending detailed alerts to monitoring system, say creating tickets in a task management tool for remediation, automatically initiating patches or fixes based on predefined rules. So what are the key takeaways from this entire workflow? Is first, automation. The workflow is fully automated from starting assessments to analyze findings. Second is integration, like services like CloudWatch, Inspector, Parameter Store, Lambda, and SNS work together seamlessly. And the last but not the least is actionable insights. So findings are processed and delivered in ways that make remediation faster and more efficient. So imagine this as a routine health check for your house. CloudWatch schedules inspection. Lambda collects details like which rooms or resources to inspect. Amazon Inspector checks each room for issues like, say, unlocked doors or broken windows. In fourth step, SNS, Simple Notification Service, sends a report to you, the homeowner. Basically, in the last step, Lambda processes the report and schedule any kind of fixes like locking doors or replacing windows. So this ensures your house or the cloud environment, in our case, remain secure at all times. Now, moving forward, let's dive deep into the administrative features of Amazon Inspector. So at the first administrative feature is centrally manage multiple accounts with AWS organization. So what exactly it means? Amazon Inspector integrates with AWS organizations, allowing you to manage and monitor vulnerabilities across multiple AWS accounts from a centralized location. So instead of logging into each account separately, you can manage all the accounts under one umbrella. This simplifies security management for large organizations with many AWS accounts. For example, a company with production, staging, and development accounts can view and manage all the vulnerabilities from one single dashboard. The next one is continuously scan for vulnerabilities and network exposures. So what it exactly means is Amazon Inspector automatically scan resources like EC2 instances, container images, and Lambda functions for vulnerabilities. It also checks for network misconfigurations that could expose resources to external attacks. So how it helps? It basically ensures real-time monitoring without manual scans, reduces the chances of missing vulnerabilities or open network exposure points. For example, if a server in your environment has an outdated version of Apache, Amazon Inspector identifies it before it becomes a problem. The next one is assess vulnerabilities accurately with Amazon Inspector risk score. So what it actually means is each vulnerability is assigned a risk score, which helps you prioritize issues based on their potential impact and exploitability. So it mainly helps you to focus your attention on critical issues that need immediate action, avoids any wasting time or on low risk vulnerabilities. For example, a critical risk score for an unpatched vulnerability with a public exploit gets immediate attention, while low risks findings like unused ports can wait. The next one is identify high impact findings with Amazon Inspector dashboard. So the Inspector dashboard highlights the most critical security issues, providing a clear view of environment's security posture. So how it helps? You can quickly identify and address high impact issues. It also offers an easy to understand summary for decision makers. So the dashboard might show that 80% of critical findings are related to specific container images, helping you find or focus on updating it first. The next one is monitor and process findings with other services and systems. What it exactly means is inspector findings can be integrated with services like AWS Security Hub, Event Breach, or any of the third-party tools for monitoring and automation purposes. It allows you to automate responses to vulnerabilities or route findings to existing workflows. It centralizes security insights across services. For example, automatically it can create a Jira ticket or send an alert to Slack when inspector identifies a critical vulnerability. And the last is manage your findings using customizable views. What it actually means is you can customize how findings are displayed, filtering them by resource type, risk level, or account. And this simplifies analysis by allowing you to focus on specific areas of concern. Makes it easier to manage large volumes of findings in complex environments. For example, filter findings to show only critical vulnerabilities on EC2 instances in the production environment. So in order to summarize altogether all these administrative features, it improves the efficiency, it provides continuous security, it has actionable insights, and it is flexible. Now let's jump into the demo part. Here I will show you how Amazon Inspector will scan and detect any of the vulnerabilities present in the containers. So this demo basically consists of 8 steps. At first, we'll have to create an IAM role. In second step, we'll create an ECR Elastic Container Registry repository. In step 3, we'll just launch an EC2 instance. On that EC2 instance in step 4, we'll install Docker and pull a vulnerable image. In step 5, we'll push Docker image on ECR repository. In step 6, we'll validate the status of the systems manager agent that is running on the EC2 instance. In step 7, we'll just enable the Amazon Inspector. And in step 8, we'll start and see what are the inspector findings in the AWS EC2 instance. And at last, we'll terminate all the resources. Make sure you always terminate all the resources when not in use in order to reduce the cost. So let's get started. Once you're on AWS console, under services, just search for IAM, Identity and Access Management. We'll click on it to open. So we are going to create 2 roles, which will be utilized by the EC2 instance in the step 3. We'll just click on create role. So under select trusted entity, we'll just select AWS service as the entity type. And under use case, we'll select EC2 instance. We'll scroll down and click on next. Here we'll search for 2 policies. The first one will be for container registry full access. And the second one will be for SSM managed instance code. And select it and just add them both. Click on next. We'll provide the role name as Amazon inspector role. And description is already pre-populated, so we won't be changing anything. And here you just have to check if both the roles have been added. And now, once we have reviewed everything, we'll just click on create role. Here you shall see role Amazon inspector has been created successfully. So here you can see that role. Now, once the inspector role is created, we'll search for ECR and create a Elastic Container Registry. So search for ECR and click on it. Here we'll create the repository. So just click on create. Now we'll just provide the repository name as say vulnerable images. And we'll let everything else default and just click on create. Now you shall see the vulnerable images repository has been created and it's present over here. Now, once the Amazon ECR registry has been created, we'll launch an EC2 instance. So under services, we'll search for EC2 and click on it to open. Here, we'll click on launch instance and provide the name for our instance as, let's say, inspections server. And under Amazon machine image, we have to make sure that whatever image that we are selecting, it needs to have SSM agent on up and running on it. So we'll just choose the Amazon Linux latest 2023 AMI, which 100% has the SSM agent pre-installed on it. Rest everything we are going to leave default. We are not going to create a new key pair. I have already created an inspection server key beforehand. So I will just select that from the drop down. Similarly, I will select an existing security group, inspection server security group that I've already created. And under advanced details, in IAM instance profile, make sure you select the role that you created earlier in the step 1. Rest everything you have to leave default, and we'll just make sure that we click on launch instance. So now the instance has been launched and it says successfully initiated launch of instance. We'll just scroll down and click on view all instances. Here you shall see our inspection server has been launched. Currently it is in running state and the status check is still initializing. So we'll wait for a few seconds until it gets status check 2 on 2 and it's up and running. Now, after waiting for a few minutes, I will just refresh and see if the status check is changed to 2 on 2 checks passed. So now we'll just SSH into this instance. So we'll connect it using EC2 instance connect. We'll just click on connect. This way we can connect to the EC2 instance without any of the SSH tools like PuTTY. We can just connect it on the browser. So here now we will be installing our Docker and pull the vulnerable image that we have to push into the ECR repository. So let's first do sudo change to root user, then yum -y install Docker. Let it finish installation, and once it completes, we'll just start the Docker engine. So now it has completed installation of Docker. We'll just start the Docker now. So systemctl start Docker. Now we have started the Docker. We'll just pull the vulnerable image. So here I'm going to use the command docker pull CentOS 7. This command basically pulls the CentOS 7 image from the Docker repository. And now we'll just look for Docker images. And here you can see the image CentOS with the tag 7 and the image ID. It was created 3 years ago and the entire size is 204 MB. So once this is created, now we'll try to push this Docker image to our ECR repository that we created earlier. So to do so, we'll have to go back to our ECR to get the commands to connect to it. So we'll just search for ECR and open it in new tab. So on the Elastic Container repository, we'll click on our repository and enter it. Here, we'll just look for view push commands. So the first command is basically for retrieving an authentication token and authenticate your Docker client to your registry. So we'll just copy this command and we'll go back to EC2 Instance Connect and we'll just paste it here. and run it. So this way you have authenticated your Docker client to ECR registry. Now go back to the repository for all the push commands. We won't be utilizing the second command. We'll skip it because we have already built a Docker image. So the third command, so we'll just copy it here. Now we'll just paste the command and make sure that we edit the image name to the one that we just created earlier. So let me update it to CentOS 7. Remove the previous one and update it to CentOS 7. I'll just enter it. I will just go back to the Elastic Container Registry and we'll copy the Docker push command. We'll go back to EC2 instance and we'll just paste the Docker push command. Here it will push all the images that are updated into the repository. So just click on that and it is pushing the CentOS image. So once that happens, we'll just quickly verify that the image was pushed to our Elastic Container Registry. So it says complete. I'll just go back here, close it and refresh and check. So here you can see the latest image, it has been pushed. And we'll run systemctl status Amazon SSM agent. We'll run it. Here you shall see our agent is up and running and is active. So now in seventh step, we'll just go back to Amazon. We'll just go back to Amazon Inspector. We'll search for Amazon Inspector over here. Inspector and click on it to open. We just have to enable Amazon Inspector now. So we'll just click on get started. So here you can see free 15-day trial for accounts who are new to Inspector. So if you're doing it for the first time, we'll just click on it and get started. So here we'll have to click on activate inspector. So I just clicked on activate inspector. We'll see what happens. We'll have to wait for a while and it has already created everything. So we'll just close this. Here you can see welcome to inspector. Your first scan is underway. So now once we have done that, we'll wait for 4 to 5 minutes for inspector to scan all the resources in the back and produce the contextualized list of findings based on priority. So we'll wait for a few minutes. Now we have almost waited for 4 to 5 minutes. I will just click on refresh and see if it has found any of the findings. So here you can see container repositories 100%. Let's refresh again and it should show 100% on the instances as well because the Docker image is installed on the EC2 instance that we created earlier. We'll wait for a few more seconds and once we have refreshed, you can see it 100%. So we'll just click on it and see name inspection server. We can see the inspection, the EC2 instance ID and the status is actively monitoring. It is agent based. We'll just wait until it finds any of the critical findings and displays over here. So now I just refreshed and you can see in ECR container, we can, it has automatically populated 7 critical findings. So we'll just see what are those findings. We'll click on it. And here you can see it has listed all the critical findings that were present into the image that we just pushed to the ECR repository. And you can again see them in detail by clicking on the vulnerable images. And here you can see critical 7 and total of 29 high findings. And all the findings were present are 55. So we'll just click on the latest image and we'll see what types of findings are there. So here it provides you the common vulnerability exposures of 2022 and what kind of exploit it was, what kind of vulnerabilities was. So here you can see all the CVE and CVSS score. Once you click on the CVE score, On the right side, you will see all the details about the vulnerability. So what is the AWS account ID? What is the severity? What is the package? What is the type of that vulnerability? And here you can see the inspector score, vulnerability intelligence. What is the CVSS score? It says 9.8, which is very high. That's basically distributed into critical vulnerabilities. So it's a known malware, like ransomware, Pegasus. These kind of malwares are found in this. So that's how you can utilize Inspector in order to find all the critical findings. And on the dashboard, you can see you can quickly go and remediate or update the image and remediate all these resources. But for this video, I'm not going to show that. So now we have completed the demo. Make sure you delete or terminate all the resources so that you do not incur any of the costs on your AWS account. In future, I will be creating more detailed videos surrounding Amazon Inspector. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe.